is going to be very popular. It is going to have two verbs coming into it. So here you have and you've got slept. So this is then known as the past participle. This will be the topic for the day. How do we then arrive at this? How does this go about? Okay. Before we go there, first let's have a review of your homework. You seem to have some questions, and let's answer them before we move onwards. First and foremost, Gyan is then going to be a form of usage which is then going to be, it's not, don't simply take pleasure or gladly, but also as like. Okay, so
yeah, Mokte is like, right?
Möchte is would like. Möchte is going to be would like. See,
Okay.
we have not completed our study of verbs as yet, and there is a group of verbs which are called as modal verbs.
Okay.
So from the modal verbs, you see the verbs have got various forms which are then going to be there. So one of them is then going to be a form which is then called as a subjunctive. So you're asking questions which are ahead of you at the moment.
Okay.
But we shall come to it in due course of time. So Gyan at the moment is not only, it's going to be like when we had then been doing the self-introduction with the A1 workbook, I think you would have then noticed that the word Gyan is there. It is occurring a couple of times. It is basically an adverb.
Yeah.
It is going to be an adverb. But the problem is that in English, it is used as a verb per se. Meaning to say that if you are then going to have, say, for example, ich lese gern, ich spiele gern, what is it that we are then trying to say? So, ich lese gern is then going to be, I like to read. So, the word here in this one is, we actually are trying to use the gern as an adverb in German, but in English it is becoming the verb, and it is becoming a dual verb. It's becoming like, I like to read. So the to read is going into the infinitive form. So a certain amount of things are, what it fundamentally points at is, there's a difference between German and English. Okay, so the grammar of this cannot be applied to the grammar of that. Literal meanings cannot be possible. So, like here, even see this one, auch is also going to be an adverb. Okay, so here what happens, I don't, normally in English, what do you say? I also speak English and German. So, whereas here, you say in German, we never allow any adverb to come in between. So, I don't say I also speak, I speak also. Like understand, I don't understand. In German, I would say ich verstehe nicht. The nicht is also going to be an adverb.
Okay.
So, gern in German is going to be it's going to be an adverb. It's going to be an adverb. So it comes after the verb in the case of the English, the German one. But in the case of the English, it is then going to be, I would like to check in. I would like a room. Okay, so you have to take it in that form. That's this one. Right. So now you have very nicely written down lesen and hören, but had no time to do it, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Try as much as possible. So try to take at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes in the initial stages. Daily touch with the language is far better than a lot in one single day. Mm-hmm. Right. So let us now get.
I have a next question.
Yes, you have one more here. Literal translation of today evening, but can this also mean tonight? Yes, it is right. Even when you talk about yesterday evening, suppose like last night I had been at your place for dinner. So when I'm talking about it today, I will then say, I enjoyed myself last evening. I'm not going to say I enjoyed myself last night.
Okay.
So it is always going to be evening. Heute Abend is going to be in the evening. So even if it is supposed to be at late in the evening at 11 o'clock or something like that, we would still be considering it. The German way of looking at it is evening is evening. So Rat is probably after midnight, I would guess. Okay. So,
Okay. And one more thing, how do we know if it is the above question? How do you know if this is I work or I am working? The between present tense and present continuous.
There is no
Ich arbeite.
there is no continuous form in the German language. So when you are saying that ich esse, it means both I eat and I am eating. So depending on the context, you have to then travel, you have to essentially then go in the same way. So like ich gehe ins Theater, I go to theater, I am going to the theater. Both of them are possible.
Okay.
It is contextual that you are then going to be doing it in that form over there.
Okay.
Right. Now, coming back to this one here. So we were just about to begin with the task of learning, deciphering what exactly is going to be a present perfect. We have learned present tense, we have learned present, the simple past tense, and you seem to have a grasp of it. So I'm not going to waste much time again revising that. So fundamentally here what happens is the present perfect has a combination. Basically what happens is you're going to introduce a second verb. And last time we had a look at the types of sentences, and we have then seen that in the case of this one, we call these as compound verb system, because it's going to be an introduction of two verbs at a time. So you're going to have has made, had made, will make, and has to make. All of these are going to be compound because they've got two verbs. But in German, what happens, the second one tends to be pushed to the outside. The second verb is never allowed to sit in the proximity of the first verb. It is always then going to be moved to the end of the sentence. Very rare exceptions, but 99% of the time it is going to go to the end over here. So when it happens to go to the end over here, in the case of the past tenses, it is then going to metamorphose. There is going to be a change of the form. This is called as the Partizip-2 in the case of German and past participle in the case of the English language. So in English, we don't have any metamorphosis, but here it is going to have, and it is going to be distinguishable. So it's going to add on a GE in the front and something else at the back. The stem of the verb remains somewhat similar. In the case of regular verbs, irregular verbs change. Now we're going to have a look at how does this actually then happen. So this, So now let us then begin over here. First and foremost, when we talk about two verbs, the one which is coming in the beginning is going to be known as the auxiliary verb. Now, if you remember, we said that all of these are then going to be strong verbs or irregular verbs.
Yeah.
Now, these are subcategories of that. Now you start understanding why we have separated this one. This one has the function of then acting as the main verb when it comes to compound sentences. So you're going to be having this one where you're going to take one auxiliary verb with one mixed verb, or you're going to take one auxiliary with a strong verb, or you're going to then do it with the one auxiliary and one weak verb. So it's anything which you take has to fall into one of these three categories. When it does, the reaction from each is going to be a little bit different from the other. The weak verbs are the easiest to understand as usual. 99, there are thousands of them. So first is 99.9% of them are going to fall into the category where you're going to start with a GE. You're going to have the stem of the verb, and then you're going to have a T at the last. So here, now we take an example to then understand this one. Here we then say, the first word that we are then having over here is then going to be kaufen, which means to buy. So here we then say, Peter buys a car. So we then say, Peter kauft ein Auto. Ein Auto. Okay. Now, in the past tense, what would then be this one over here? How would you then say, Peter bought a car? This is a regular verb. So, ikkademavuthundi.
Peter
kaufte. Correct.
Ein Auto.
Right. So, Peter kaufte ein Auto. This is how the simple past tense is coming. Now we're coming to the point where we want to then see the third one, which is then going to be the introduction of a second verb. Peter has bought a car. Peter has bought a car. So this is then going to be Peter hat ein Auto gekauft. Perfect. Now you understood exactly how this is then going to come. Similarly, also in this list of verbs which we have given as an example, you then see he makes a table, macht einen Tisch. He made a table, machte einen Tisch. And then it says, hat einen Tisch gemacht. He has made a table. So we find that the hat and gemacht are split aside, and you have the GE and this one, and this is the second one which you've got over here. So this is going to be true for the majority of them, but there are minor variations. So let us now go and have a look at the variations which are then going to be possible over here. So what are the variations which are then going to come here? This is now the perfect. Okay, the perfect is in German, present perfect in the case of English, perfect in the case of German. We then say regular verbs. Variation 1 is what we have just studied. 99.9% of the words are going to fall in this category. There is a small category of words consisting of about 15 to 18 verbs are going to be there. These are going to be called as the iron verbs. They're going to fall into the regular verb. They're going to fall into the what you call the weak verbs or the regular verbs. This one here is very, very, very close to the English language. So most of the things you can probably say is an anglicized form of German. So like telephone, telefonieren. Now what we then say is, hast du deine Mutter telefoniert? So have you telephoned your mother? So when we are using this form, I don't use a GE. The GE is then dropped out. That is the purpose behind highlighting this particular verb here. Now, study, studieren, repair, reparieren, offer, offerieren, profit, profitieren, probe, to try. So, probieren. Okay, like this you're going to get photograph, fotografieren. Okay, so these are going to be er hat mich fotografiert. He has photographed me. Simple past tense. Is that going to be so in the case of when you come in the simple past tense, er fotografierte mich. So he photographed me. Er hat mich fotografiert. He has photographed me. Has and photographed. So, but you're going to have no G, that is, but the T is going to come as usual. So this is a minor variation. It's consisting of not more than about some 15, 18 verbs in total. Then you have a third minor variation. This is less than this, even about half of that, I would say, about 9 to 10 verbs in total, where you're going to have a prefix in the front, existing prefix. So it's going to be something like begrüßen, befreunden, so then besuchen, versuchen. So limited number of verbs, not very many. So this is going to be here also the same thing is going to happen. The G is not going to be applied because there's already a prefix attached to the verb. So you're just going to, they say, ich habe meine Mutter im Krankenhaus besucht. I have visited my mother in the hospital. Yeah, right. So this is then how it is then going to work out. So this is fairly easy to go with, nothing extraordinary. It's very, very easy. And you've got the regular verb. The problem comes with the case of the irregular verbs. Now, technically, I don't need to explain this to you, but I'm going to do it for the simple reason that understanding is better than trying to get confused. So, first one. Broadly, it is going to fall into 3 categories. Version 4, version 5, or version 6, or variation 4, variation 5, variation 6. The first one is going to be fairly clear. It's going to be the stem of the verb, and you're going to have an en. So right now, fahren. Fahren means to drive. It also means to travel. Has 2 meanings. Either way, it doesn't matter. It is then going to be gefahren. Okay. Here, you are then going to see, at the moment, please note that we're only dealing with the second part of the verb, the one which is going to be considered as the past participle or this one. So it's the one which is coming at the rear of the sentence. The one in the front, we are not touching. But I have to mention it here. Quite often, there are certain verbs which are going to then induce a change in the auxiliary verb. 75% of the time, we're going to use haben, hat, have. Okay. But a small percentage is going to be there where you are then going to use the sein form instead. How and why is the next topic that we will be touching upon later in this session. Here, what you need to understand is the rear side, where they're going to say, for example, let us say your father has then traveled to Bangalore. So when somebody comes and asks for your father, what are you then going to say? Ja, mein Vater ist nach Bangalore gefahren. Okay. Now, you can then use this gefahren even for saying for driving a car. So mein Vater ist mit dem Auto nach Bangalore gefahren. My father has gone with the car to Bangalore. So maybe he has driven it himself or he is being driven, whatever it is, he is traveling. Okay. This is then, we're not going to have any change. The stem is going to remain identical. Example, kommen. Kommen means to come. So, mein Vater ist zurückgekommen. My father has come back. Zurückgekommen. Kommen. Gekommen. So the kommen is then going to be the stem and that is going to remain as it is. So you can put that and come here. Now, then what makes it an irregular verb? Irregular verbs, you see, are then going, some of them are going to show their irregularity only in the present tense. They may not show anything. In the past tense, they are likely to show it. And in the past tense, they may be showing it in the case of the simple past tense rather than the any other form of past tense. So, like here, fahren is going to become fuhr in the case of this one. So I traveled. Traveled part is then going to be with the fuhr, which is then going to come. Now, come to the version number 5. Here, what is then going to happen? The verb is going to have a small change in the middle of it. So, like now, the word for writing is going to be schreiben. Schreiben, you're then going to find is then going to become, in the case of this past participle, it's going to become geschrieben. So, Iben becomes even, which means that EI has changed into IE. So, there is a vowel shift. Now, this explanation of vowel shift and consonant shift, which I'm giving you, are concepts of mind. They are not to be found in a regular grammar book. So each teacher has their own way of teaching, and I have tried to follow a couple of different teachers. One is the University of Singapore, the other is then going to be from the United States. There's one lady called Nancy Thulin. But each one has got its own. I found I was not satisfied. I wanted something which would help my students to understand exactly what is the changes which are occurring. Fundamentally, these changes which are happening here are going to be like in the case of, suppose you are learning to do MS Word. You don't need to know the programming of it to be able to use it. Using it is different from trying to then do the actual programming within it. So too, like when you are trying to learn to drive an automobile, you don't need to know anything beyond the basic fact that there's a gear, a clutch, a brake, and an accelerator, and a driving wheel, and what you're then steering wheel, and how you are then going to be using them. The innards, how does the petrol come in? How does it get combusted? What is the compression ratio? These are not of importance for a person who's going to drive a vehicle. So too, in reality, how the actual verb functions has got no relevance as such. This is only for pure understanding when you are trying to then, play around with the verbs, so that you know that you're aware, okay, there's a diesel car, there's a petrol car, there's an electric car. So what are the variants and what is it that they are going to be doing? This is all that we are trying to do over here. So don't get confused, don't get sidetracked into the grammar part of it. It is only just an explanation and purely that, nothing else. So come to the next one. So we have the next one that we then come to is, you then find that two things are going to happen. Here, for example, is a word which is supposed to be actually gain. Gain means to go. Now, this is the stem of the verb. Now you find the E is becoming an A and the H is then becoming an NG. Okay, it's going to become N and G. So you're going to say gegangen. So, ich gehe, ich ging, ich bin gegangen. Sure, it's going to change its form like that. Here, nehmen is then going to be the verb. So, nehmen, you're going to find the E is becoming an O and the H is converting into an M. So, I've opted to give it to this one that is going to be a vowel shift and a consonant shift. Okay, so E, as I told you, this is then their take on this, saying how it is to be looked at. The last one is then going to be the mixed one. Here, what this one does, it like in the case of the regular verb and the other ones, you find the G is then coming in as usual. It then opts to take the T, like in the case of the regular verbs, But in the one which is there in between, it is going to behave like this. It's going to behave like this. So you're going to have vowel shift and consonant shifts. This is going to be coming in separately like this. So this is the reason why it is called as a mixed verb. Only there happen to be only around 9 of them. So not a very great amount, and we shall then cover it in due course of time. So this is then how the verbs are then going to. Now comes the question, oh, how do I know how the thing is then going to end, or what is the form it is then going to take? Since it is irregular, there's only one thing you have to memorize. So in reality, as you remember, we once talked about vocabulary needs, and then we said that you require about 50 to 100 verbs. So 50 verbs, if you take it as the top one, around 35 to 36 are going to be irregular verbs out of the 180 regular verbs. So you have to start creating the list which you require, and then start becoming familiar with the forms that it takes. Over a period of time, you will then become, even though you have never come across it, you will find certain patterns which are then going to be there. You're going to be able to understand these things far better. Now, here, for example, is the one which I told you about. This lady has then classified the 7 classes of verbs. Okay, so I have put into 3 groups and what is it doing. But she's specified more on this second group. So the entire second group is then represented into a subcategories of 7 groups. EI becomes I and becomes like this. So the simple past tense, and this is then going to be the one over here. And it's not going to be consistent either. So like now when you say here written, it's going to be writ, and this is going to be geritten, schneiden, so schnitt and geschnitten. So it's going to be forms within the form. So irregularity is going to take new forms eventually. So this, when you go through it, you find it becomes confusing, which is why I have opted to do this. There is also another one which is from the University of Singapore. They have done 6. They have done a classification of 6 of them. So here, this is then going to be from the University of Singapore. So they have then made a group of 6. So what they're trying to find is similarity between the group, the ones. How can we then say fliegen becomes flogen? So IE. So their contention is if it's got an IE, it's going to become an O. It's having schließen, it's going to become schloss. Unbeaten, so unbought, both on. So this is a splittable verb, so it's going to be unbought. So bought me a drink. So he then offered me a drink. Verlieren becomes verlor. So Finden, like this, she's again trying to do this. Once upon a time, I tried this method. I thought it is good. So I had then been teaching students about this one. But keeping all these things in mind is going to be a problem. And you know the advice which he says here, he says you sing. He says he wants you to then remember it like this. Trinken, tranke, trunken, essen, aas, gegessen, gehen, ging, gegangen. So he says that is then going to help you to remember it. So he says reciting them will really help you, as the rhythm will be a useful and aid to recall. So in some people, if they find that as the response is fine, so you can do that. So fliegen, flog, geflogen, schließen, schloss, geschlossen. So beaten, bought, and angeboten. So finden, fand, gefunden. So you can use sing, sang, sung. Okay, all kinds of things are there. That is, you make your choice what is going to be your way of remembering whatever is then coming. But fundamentally, apart from this, how do I help? Now, when I'm creating sentences, I'm doing something, and I want to know. The one which is then going to be is a tool which you're going to be given. This is your tool over here. The tool is then going to be known as Vocabulix. It's basically a conjugation site. It's going to be a conjugation site. So suppose you wanted to know something about an irregular verb like speak. Speak is then going to be sprechen. So we put down over here and we find that sprechen is springing up. So you will find that there are 5 forms being offered to you. Please stick only with the first 3. These 3 are not of use for you. They are meant for higher level students like B2 and C1. So you are just going to be looking at these and then picking up how it is and when it is. So ich spreche, sprach. So we haven't gesprochen and all that. So what happens will then follow. This is, you will have a look at that in due course of time. So this, you now have some idea about how this thing is then going to be affecting us. So you're going to then see, you got the idea of how this is affecting us. Now we come to the front side of this one. So we're now going to look at the form of the one, which particular form should I then use? Here in the case of auxiliary verbs, we've got 3 of them. I told you haben comes around 75 to 80% of the time. 20% of the time you're going to get the sein form. Sometimes you're going to get the werden form. Werden is generally used for indicating the future. Otherwise, majority of the time it is going to be the sein form, which is then going to come over here. Now, sein, when there is a change of condition or location, use sein as a helping verb. This is the instruction which is being given to us. It is highlighted with a red line on the left side indicating the importance of this one which is then being given over here. Now, when you are then using when should I then use? So sein has to come when there is a change of condition or a location. Location is fairly easy to understand. You someday in the morning you're going to the office, so somebody calls up for you, and then they ask your Mrs. Where is Ravi? And then she's going to say, oh, he has gone to the office. He has gone to the office. So location changing. He has gone to the office. So we're going to then say, ist zum Büro gegangen. Ist zum Büro gegangen. So I'm going to use a sein form over here because it happens to be the one which is then going to come. There is gone to office is indicative of a change of location. Similarly, if somebody is then going, say, from example, we've already spoken about dad going to Bangalore. Ist nach Bangalore gefahren. Now, suppose it is then going to be you have gone to Germany, and somebody comes to your parents and says, where is Ravi? And they say that, oh, ist nach Deutschland geflogen, gereist, gegangen, gefahren. Any one of these verbs is then going to be in. That means the one which is coming at the back side is going to determine whether the the one in the front is going to be sein or it's going to be haben. That is the determinant. So location and condition. Location is easy to understand, not a very difficult one. Condition is a little bit more subtle. It's a little bit more subtle. So let us look at what actually comprises conditions. So now there is a school reunion in your high school. Now you are not able to go. People are then talking about Ravi Kandariya. Mando Ravi Chadeva Devainadu. Oh, Ravi, he has become an engineer. So he was a student, he has become an engineer. So now we're going to say ist. In English, we say he has become an engineer. In German, we're going to say ist Ingenieur geworden. Ingenieur geworden. He has then become an engineer. So this is one form of condition. Abhi, let us say you're a young man. Now, let us say 20 years ago, your aunt has gone to the US. Now, for a family function, she has come back. Now, what is then happening here? When she comes, she sees you and she says, "Are, nu chinnapudu inta undevadivira. Inta peddaga ayipoyavura." So, German, to convert that into English, it is then going to be, "Oh, you have become so big. You have become big." But it's a condition. You were small and now you have become big. So, in German, we're going to say, "Du bist groß geworden." Ist groß geworden. He has become tall. He has become tall. He has become big. Ist groß geworden. Okay, so that's then going to be this change of condition for two situations. The third situation, let us then have one where we're then going to say that somebody is no longer there. So like, let us say Jawaharlal Nehru has died in 1964. He has died in 1964. Now, in German, we're going to then say, ist in 1964 gestorben. Gestorben. Sterben is then going to be to die. So gestorben is going to be the past tense. We're then going to say, ist gestorben. So, here those are situations where the conditions are then being highlighted. However, it is not a comprehensive list of examples. You should always remember anything in which you are able to remember and then put two things together is then going to be also going to be the one there. So here we are going to try and portray another this one. So here we then have a person who is lying down and a person who is then gotten up. So in German, this is also then considered as a change of state. This is also going to be considered as a change of state. Okay, so here you are then going to then find that the person who is sleeping, we're going to say, ist eingeschlafen. Ist eingeschlafen. Now, when you are then coming here, okay, so when he's awake, I'm going to say, ist aufgewacht. And here, you're going to say, ist aufgestanden. So like now, when I want to ask you in the morning, what time did you get up? I'm going to say, wann bist du aufgestanden? Now, wann bist du aufgestanden? When did you get up? Wann bist du aufgewacht? When have you woken up? Have you woken up? Have you gotten up? But here we're using these forms to then indicate this form here. Clear so far, son? Any doubts?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, you have doubts. No, you have no doubts.
That's clear.
Okay. And some people, they are very this one. So like when I was in Africa, we used to have neighbors, and then, I just asked the neighbor's kid, "Is your father at home?" He says, no. "Oh, he's not at home." "Yes." So he's then, the first statement is, he's agreeing when I say he's not at home, he says, yes, he's not at home. Now when I say that, so Atlan, is he at home? He says, no, he's not at home. Now when I say, oh, he's not at home, is it? When I'm repeating it, he then agrees with me. He says, yes, he's not at home. So like a yes and no can sometimes have different ones. Recently, ఎవరన్నా పంపించారు దీంట్లో రైల్వేస్ లో కన్సెషన్స్ ఇచ్చారట ఆడవాళ్ళు ఎక్కడాను from the age of 58 women are also eligible for senior citizenship. So 40% concession on trains, but they have an option where you can then give it. So one says cancel, the other then says yes. So yes doesn't mean that you're canceling it. Cancel it says that you are when can something like that. One of them, it's a bit confusing, I believe. So you have to be careful exactly what you do. Okay, so here we are now looking at two things. One is condition, other is location. Now look at this verb and tell me, what do you see? Do you see condition or do you see location here? To stay.
Location.
This is going to be location. Fahren.
Location.
Fallen.
Location.
No. Not really. Padipodu. So it ninchunnadu, padipothunadu ikkada.
Okay.
So it is then going to be a condition. Okay. Then here again,
Location.
location and common.
Location.
Yes.
Location.
Right.
Location.
Yes.
Condition.
That's right.
Climbing location. Very condition. Condition. Condition.
Nice. Okay, so there we are. It's as simple as that, nothing very extraordinary about it. So that about covers the topic. So the thing is, we need to simply practice this a little bit and we should be fine. Okay, so wherever we have been doing, so far with this one, so like here, now this is a list of regular verbs in this one over here. Okay, so it then says, Paul lives in Hamburg. So what would you then bring over here?
Paul won't in Hamburg.
So it is then going to be won't. Now, if you want to then say he lived in Hamburg, what are you then going to do?
Won't.
You're going to then say I won't in Hamburg. Now, Paul has lived in Hamburg.
Paul ist in Hamburg gewohnt.
Gewohnt.
Gewohnt. Okay.
But you're not, there is no change of, the location is not shown here. So you're going to say hat in Hamburg gewohnt. So
okay.
Gewohnt is not per se going to then give any indication of movement or something like that. So you are then going to say hat in Hamburg gewohnt. Okay. So then Buchstabieren is going to be to spell. So buchst, this is one of the ieren verbs. So here you're going to say it's a regular verb. You're then going to say buchstabiert das Wort. So it is then going to be buchstabierte das Wort. Past tense. Hat das Wort buchstabiert. Is then going to be the form for this. Okay. Now we then have got one more this tool that we are then going to be given. This is the tool. This has got a list of all the 180 verbs which are then going to be in existence. It is going to show its present tense, its the meaning, the present tense, the imperfect, and the past participle only for the third person. That's it, nothing else. So with the rest of it are going to be, certain things are going to be clear no matter what you do. So this one is then going to be whatever you remove the T and then this T is going to be for the third person. So by now it is very clear third person T is going to come. If I remove it and then I then say ST, it is then going to be the second person. Okay, so it is then going to be the second person. So this is then going to be Ich beginne, du beginnst, beginnt. Then it is then going to be ich begann, begann, And when it is coming here, it's then going to be, we are hard, so hart begonnen. Begonnen. This is
Hart
the
begonnen.
ones with the BE in the front. Yeah?
Okay.
Any question, Ravi?
No.
Okay. So, this is an easy reference guide. Most of the time, it is going to be of help for you. Otherwise, you're then going to use this particular past tense forms which are going to come. Past tense, as I said, is going to be in 3 different forms: the perfect, the praeteritum, and the pluperfect. So wherever you are then going to be doing any reading, so try playing around with whatever you are then seeing over here. So like now, for example, let us now come here. You have Freundinnen, very simple one, and then you have here you have this present perfect. So you're then going to come here and say, yeah, read this. Ricarda ist
21 Jahre alt und
okay. Now when you want to then say the simple past tense for that, how would you say it?
Ricarda war
Yes.
21 Jahre alt.
Right. And now the third form has been 21 years old.
Okay. Ricarda hatte.
It will not come in the English form had been 21 years old. It's going to continue as has been. We say present perfect, and so it's going to be in the present tense in the first active verb. So then Ricarda ist 21 Jahre alt, and then comes the word gewesen. So now here, this is where this is going to help you. See, if you then come here, you're using the sein form here. Okay, so sein form bitte. We're then going to come here, and you're then going to see, we're going to then, when you come to the past tense, we're going to say du bist gewesen, so ist gewesen. So we're going to say, sie ist 21 Jahre alt gewesen. Gewesen is going to be the equivalent of been.
Okay.
So like now, if you are then say, I am in Delhi, ich bin in Neu Delhi. Now, I have been in New Delhi, ich bin in Neu Delhi gewesen. Ich war in Neu Delhi, I was in New Delhi. This is then going to be the form that is. So this, whenever you have 2 words being given here, it doesn't mean they're coming side by side. It means that the masala has to be then filled in between them.
Okay.
How that masala has to come is our next lesson about formation of sentences and so forth. So that we will then see when we come to it. Now here let us then try to understand. This is then going to be how it is then going to be. So generally, Manikendante, we are going to have a subject, a verb, and then other. So that is how most sentences are going to be, simple sentences. As we then go into complex ones, then some changes are then going to occur over here. So here, for example, in this one, we have said that when you're trying to understand a compound one, you're going to then say subject is going to be this one here. The verb is then going to be consisting of hat and gemacht. So now I have to say had made. So Hartmut had made a trip in February. So I'm then going to use this form. So ist gefahren. He has driven to the Alps. He has driven to the Alps. He has traveled to the Alps. So he's here. The context appears to be or should suggest that the person has driven down instead of saying he has traveled over there. Okay. So when you are then trying to come to the complex sentences, this is what you have to do every time. You have to look at the one in the second place, and then you have to look at the last one. So ikkada manaki you had got here by common is the last one, and then he had then going to get this here. Hat by common is then going to be he had received, he had gotten.
Heart is
By common is going to be to get or to receive. Chapandi?
no, heart is has or had.
Has.
Okay.
It is in the present tense. Hatta is then going to be the one which is in the past tense.
Okay.
Any doubts, you can always simply refer to the your quick guide over here. So here you see EFGH, haben. Hat is present tense. Hatta is going to be the past tense, and gehabt is going to be the present perfect. Ich habe meine Frühstück gehabt. Hat seine Frühstück gehabt. He has had his breakfast. Okay. Essen is then going to be an irregular verb, so we're going to then see Essen is going to be ist, aß und gegessen. Okay, so this is not extraordinary. Like, drink, drank, drunk, sing, sang, sung. The form of the verb, even in the case of English, has this tendency to go through different forms according to what it is then being used with. Okay, right. So that should give you some idea. Now you need to spend a little bit of time trying to understand this format by going through not the A1, you have to move to the A2 levels and then try and work together. So now here, so this then he had received a single room in a beautiful hotel. Okay, then when you then come here, now this is then going to be, sorry, we'll just remove this, is then going to be
every morning.
Ist gegangen. So
every morning he goes to.
You would have to take it as has gone.
Okay, he
has gone to the ski course every morning.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So point of the matter here, this is what we will learn about in the next this one. There are going to be certain elements, and there's going to be a sequence in which they come, and this sequence is then going to tell us what is going to be the subject, the verb, and so forth. Yeah. So this is then going to be how you would be then doing it. So you're going to then find that this is also going to be the regular verbs and irregular verbs are all going to behave in different ways. And we are going to then learn about it. Yeah. So here, let us take a simple one. What is the first activity you're going to have in the morning? See, I asked you to create a list of verbs of your activities. So I do not know whether you have got around to doing it. Did you do it?
Yeah, I have created the list of verbs.
Okay. So let us then say, what is the very first thing you do? You wake up.
Yeah, I wake up.
So you're then going to say when you go and then go to the first tool that you've got. Your first tool is going to be Lingua, the dictionary. So when you then check it out over there, what is the word? I wake up at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Now, this, when I then come here, okay, so I then find that the word which is used here is going to be aufwachen. Now, this leads us to another group of words that we are going to discuss not in detail, but superficially. We have what are called as phrasal verbs or verb phrases. So, wake up, you require both of them to be able to create the sentence. You cannot do it one without the other, doesn't work. So, you need to have wake up. I wake up, I get up, I fill out a form. I call up my mother. The wedding takes place at the Hotel Taj, takes place. So, you're going to have verbs which are then going to be coming together and then they're going to create. So, say if you take the word, for example, take place. Remove one of the verbs and the sentence falls flat. You don't have a meaning in the sentence. So you require both of them to be able to make a particular sense. So these in German are going to take two different forms. One, it is then going to become a splittable verb. So like aufwachen is a splittable verb. So here when I then come and I create the sentence over here, it is going to be treated as if it is a compound verb, as if it is two verbs. So it is then going to come ich wache 6 Uhr auf. Even in the case of English, I wake up, I woke up, I have woken up. So the wake is going to change its form, the up is going to remain as it is. So దీంట్లో కూడాను ఈ auf అనేది ఏం మార్పు రాదు. It is like a catalyst. It is just there.
Okay.
So it is then going to be I wake up at this one. Now, without I woke up at 6 o'clock. So ich wachte 6 Uhr auf. I woke up at this one. Then here ich bin 6 Uhr aufgewacht. So following this one here. So when I come here, the auf is going to be there and the gewacht is then going to come here. This is a regular verb. So we are going to find that it's going to come over here in this form. Now, for comparison, this is an irregular verb. I get up at 6:10. So, quite often, people don't get up immediately. A lot of them like to lie around, stretch a little bit, snuggle around probably. And so when I asked some of my students, they told me the first thing that they do is after waking up, they then like to look at their phones. Email, Facebook, Messenger, అన్ని ఒకసారి చెక్ చేసుకుని దాని తర్వాత లేస్తారు. Do you also belong to that category, son?
No.
No. Okay. So
I check the time. That's all.
So that's what I also do. I always look at the time because I don't keep a wristwatch. Since the invention of the smartphone, I always rather prefer to look at the phone itself. So here, the word for getting up is then going to be aufstehen. The word is then going to be aufstehen. Now, ich stehe 6
Uhr
Uhr 10 auf. Okay. Then, when you then come down, so you're then going to say, ich stand 6 Uhr 10 auf. Ich stand. I stehe, ich stand. I get up, I got up. Now, ich bin, or you can also say here, this is one of the verbs where people are then using both forms. So, ich habe 6 Uhr 10 aufgestanden. Okay, so people use both bin and habe. It's one of those dual verbs which tends to take either form. Ich bin 6 Uhr aufgestanden, ich habe 6 Uhr aufgestanden. So both are possible over here, but not in the case of Aktiva. We're just going to remain with that. So this is then going to be a regular verb, this is going to be an irregular verb, splittable verb. How does it work? And this is, you got the idea over here. Right, we stop over here for today. I'll say bye to you. Have a wonderful day, and we shall meet again the day after tomorrow. We shall then be doing a few exercises to understand haben sein, and then we will be doing some exercises to then understand what is the form that it is going to take. So when you are then coming in, you shall keep both vocabularies open and also the list of the irregular verbs.
Okay.
So, ich wünsche Ihnen einen schönen Tag noch. I wish you a very nice day. So, bis übermorgen, till the day after tomorrow. Sure.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Cheers.
Cheers.